Hello, and welcome to Melomaniax, the podcast where we take unbiased deep dives into the biggest musicians and bands of all time. I'm Ashton.
And I'm Dallas. Today we're going to be covering the mysterious masked musicians, Sleep Token. But before we dive in, wanted to let you guys know, please don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube, wherever you're listening to this. Follow on Instagram, TikTok. Most importantly, please hit us with those 5-star reviews, wherever you're listening to this podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, etc. Although we appreciate reviews on any platform. And we have a Patreon now. It's a $5 a month tier, just one tier. That's going to give you access to our private Discord, where we're always sharing news and cool thoughts on what we've talked about, as well as a shout out on one of our episodes and the ability to vote on future episode topics.
So, Sleep Token. So, I'm going to go ahead and lay it out. This is going to be a little different from our normal episodes, just because there's not a lot of information on Sleep Token because they're an anonymous group. We'll get into that. And they're pretty recent. I think their first song released in 2016, so they're very, very new to the scene. They have 3 albums so far. And because they're anonymous, there's no biography on this band at all. So we're going to be a little all over the place talking about them, but we still have some very interesting things to talk about. Specifically, just their music being really, really incredible. Dallas actually brought this band to my attention like a month ago. I think he sent their most recent album to me. And then we were just getting to talking, and he was like, you know what? You should just do Sleep Token. And I was like, all right. So I decided to dive into that discography, as I always do. And now we're just going to kind of talk about them. We'll try and keep it somewhat in order from start to finish, but there's just a lot to talk about. But how did you discover Sleep Token?
So my wife, Amy, is from England. Sleep Token's from England. And they are, well, until this year, they were not a very big band. And she saw them at like a local festival or something, like a small festival, because her friends opened up for them.
Oh,
and so
awesome.
she started getting into them that way. And then her friends are also in a masked band, which is kind of funny. But I guess it was like a masked fest. I don't know. But she saw them and was like, blown away, started following them. I guess people in the UK were obviously hip to this before we were. And then in, I guess it was early 23 or maybe late 22. No, it had to have been early 23.
2023.
They had a song go viral on TikTok. Not even a song, a part of a song. That song's called The Summoning. And that part is kind of like this R&B kind of breakdown part. And it went viral on TikTok, and it kind of blew the band up, I guess, globally. Next thing I know, they're coming over doing a US tour. And I'm like, oh, cool. They're a small band, so probably small rooms, easy to get tickets, affordable, blah, blah, blah. I could not have been more wrong. The first place we saw them was a 7,000-seat arena in Asheville, sold out. I had to pay a stupid amount of money to get tickets. And the only reason we justify that is because Amy and I go to a lot of shows, and we end up getting it free a lot of times. So I was like, okay, well, this is us paying it forward for all the times we got in free.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So we paid 5 times what we should have paid because I bought them after they were sold out. But I could not believe that. I could not believe how hard it was to get tickets, and that they were playing a very big room. I thought they would be playing, maybe 1,000 seats. It's their first U.S. tour, as far as I know. I don't think they've been over here before then, although they could have been. I'm pretty new to this band as well. I think a lot of people are. So then we went and saw them, and I kind of knew some of their songs before. Like I had 1 or 2 that I liked, and man, walking out of that arena, I was like, all right, I'm a fan. I'm in. This was it was one of the coolest shows I've ever seen in my life. Everything they did was just perfect as far as showmanship and performance, and just blown away by every aspect of this band. So
yeah, I remember you sending me a
video. They're really doing it right.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I remember you sending me a video, and just the theatrics, the lighting, everything was it just looked like an incredible show to watch. I'm going to have to go see them if they come around my way next time. I assume they'll do some future tours in the U.S.
Yeah, we need to keep up with it and get tickets earlier next time.
Yeah, for sure.
And all go as a group. It'll be really fun.
Yeah, after what you sent me, I definitely would like to see them live, which is interesting because I'm very selective with my live music, which I was thinking we could do an episode just talking about all the shows we've been to. That'd be cool.
Yeah,
but
that would be awesome.
so Sleep Token, I said, is anonymous. They, as you heard, they wear masks and cloaks, and nobody knows their names. They keep their names anonymous as well. They go by, the singer's name is Vessel, and then the other three members are called 2, 3, and 4. And that's all we know. Even when you look on the Wikipedia and it says members, it just says Vessel, 2, 3, and 4. So
yeah, so I
already
didn't
pretty
realize
awesome.
this, but apparently it's Vessel 1, Vessel 2, Vessel 3, Vessel 4.
That's what I figured,
So,
but nobody ever says Vessel 2. You know, they always
the
just
only
say like
reason
2.
I found that out. The only reason I found that out is I always scroll to the bottom of the lyrics on Apple Music and see who's credited as writing it.
Yeah.
And a lot of them were credited as Vessel 1. So I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So
Okay.
he's number 1, number 2, number 3, so on, so forth.
So you have a little experience in a masked, kind of a masked band. I was thinking when I was doing the research for this, you want to talk about that story.
This is a funny little sidebar. Yeah. So me and my friend Daniel in high school, it had to have been high school. We decided, well, honestly, the timeline's a little hazy. We had come up with the name for a band because we were clicking through band name generators, and we were like, refresh. And this band name generator would be like the Bone Thugs or whatever,
Yeah.
or it would be the League of Doom, and it would do all these things. Eventually, one ended up popping up that said the League of, and we were like, that is the dumbest, funniest name we've ever heard. So we decided right then we had to have a band called the League of, which every time we played 2 shows, every time we played a show, whoever made the poster thought it was a typo, just called us the League of. It was not a typo. We were the League of. And the music started when I was thinking about Metallica and those kind of bands. I was like, well, that music's it's kind of just chuggy downstrokes with power chords. I could probably write an album of that in an afternoon. So I did. That ended up being our music. And just, it was kind of a spoof on another band in town that kind of did that, is how it started. And in order to successfully do the spoof, because we didn't really get along with those guys, we had to dress up. So we got these big, cloaks from Halloween Express or whatever that covered your arms all the way down, and then obviously a hood. We got the just standard white mask, the white, how would you describe that mask?
It's like if the Scream mask didn't have the really long jaw, or
it's just like a face.
Yeah, just a white blank face with just cutouts for the eyes and a small little part for the mouth.
Nothing special about it at all. So there are 4 of us. So we all put those on. We realized really quickly that our singer couldn't sing with it because it went under your chin a little bit. So it would anytime he'd open his mouth, the whole mask would come down, and then you couldn't hear it. So we cut his mouth out. So his had the mouth out so he could sing. Everyone else just looked the same. And then we also quickly realized, well, these robes only come up to just above our ankles. They're a little short. So, I mean, what are we all going to be wearing, socks and shoes? So we went to Walmart and got pink flip-flops. And so we all wore these pink flip-flops. So there's these girly, flowery flip-flops. And that actually reminded me of another time, Ashton, you and I went to Walmart and got the bird shirts. We got to talk about that at some point.
Oh, man.
But I love those kind of pranks because they don't hurt anyone and they're just funny. But we went on stage. We played 2 shows. And funny enough, the band we were spoofing, which is the reason we went anonymous in the first place, they ended up loving us. They came up after and were like, dude, you guys are amazing, blah, blah.
Dude, yeah, that was so funny. I was at that show.
We were kind of having a good laugh at that. There is a video taken by my friend's dad that is still on Facebook. I get tagged in it every couple years. We also produced, I have this saved in my YouTube, me and Daniel, we produced a VH1 behind the music of ourselves.
Oh, I remember that.
And it was really good, really high quality. We did it really good. For some reason, when we uploaded it to YouTube, it only uploaded 360p. So it's the blurriest thing you've ever seen, which sucks because it was a really good thing. But I still have that video saved in my YouTube somewhere. I'll have to send it to you. It's a, 7-8 minute thing where we created all this lore for ourselves and some funny fake scandals and just ridiculous stuff.
I'm trying to remember, were the other 2 members, was it Paul and
Patrick.
Right? Yeah, it was.
Yep.
Yeah, see, I think it was our freshman year of college because everyone was on the hall except for Daniel.
Everyone was on our dorm hall. Yeah. Daniel was a year behind us, so he was still in high school. But yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the funniest shows, one of the coolest ones ever. Just because
we played like second in a thing of like 5 or 6 bands, and what was cool is we showed up in costume, we set up in costume, and we all told ourselves like nobody say a single word to anyone this whole night. So people would walk up and be like, "Hey, what's up?" And we just be like nodding and like totally silent and stuff. Like pretty soon people got it and they were kind of like way into it, but. It's pretty funny how you can kind of just, put on a mask and all of a sudden like everything changes. It's weird.
Yeah. So the reason Sleep Token did it is, and why a lot of people choose the anonymous route is so that the audience is forced to listen to the music because they can't associate any kind of identity to the musicians. It's so common nowadays that like, Taylor Swift fans, for example, love their music, but really they're just more interested in her as a person and what she's doing outside, and in her life.
Celebrity.
You don't have that option. They're not celebrities. You can only listen to their music. Another reason why when we were talking CCR that John would just sit in the back and face the drummer because he didn't want faces, and people to attach themselves to the identity. He wanted them to focus on the music. And that was the biggest reason Sleep Token did it. As well as just the aesthetic ends up being so fucking awesome.
Is that what they said?
I believe that was kind of hinted at as far as the anonymous. I think he said. I believe he did.
I would say that's a little bit flawed because what you end up associating with is just that look and that mask and that kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like Slipknot.
Yeah.
People are like, oh, it's the band. Well, now people know who they are, but it's like, or Kiss, even the originals. It's like, oh, it's the band with the masks or the band with the makeup,
Mm-hmm.
That kind of ends up being what they're associated with it. And in their case, they have, in my opinion, some of the cooler masks and costumes that I've ever seen. So, it kind of makes sense. It's kind of like, oh, their look is like even more cool than if it was just like some guy,
Yeah. Since you brought up their masks, so they've had 2 iterations of masks, and mainly the mask has stayed the same, but they've had 2 band logo iterations, and the mask is all white with 6 eye holes, and then it has red markings on it. And the original logo was an acronym for Sleep Token, so an S and a T written in ancient runes. And I believe the ancient runes were the Elder Futhark, which it looked Nordic to me, and a lot of the symbols were very like Nordic. Even one of the symbols like just means Thor, so I assume it has something to do with like some Nordic history. But then they evolved it into a new symbol that I was telling you right before we went live that it's still hasn't been figured out by anybody. They have a lot of symbolism and hidden messages and whatnot built into their lore. And so I believe they said that it's the 3 symbols for man, victory, and happiness. But there's like a line down the middle. And so they think that one side means that and the other means the opposite, which would be woman, loss, and sadness. And that's like that right now. That's the current conspiracy. But nothing's been confirmed or denied or anything. But I think that's what people are going with right now. There's like a whole group of people just dedicated to deciphering this band's lore and their album images. And I mean, they've been doing stuff since the beginning. Their very first 3 singles all came with 3 different album artworks that had hidden coordinates on each one. And once all 3 were released, you could put the coordinates in, and it was the Point of Nemo, I believe, which is an island that is the farthest away from every other landmass in the world. So it's the most isolated land on the entire Earth. We don't know what that means, but that's what it deciphered out to be. So there's just so much mystery with this band, even just apart from their stage look. So it's very, very interesting as far as just diving into that whole side of things. There's a lot of videos on YouTube that are just speculation. That's all it ever really can be.
Another thing I'll say about the show that I found really interesting was, and I guess it's kind of hard to explain exactly. I was sitting kind of far back, but so as a musician, I'm always looking at the gear, like, oh, what are they using? What guitars are they using? So every instrument they use that I could see from where I was, I couldn't tell what it was. So it wasn't like a common instrument. And they were either just solid black or solid white. Like they were just the most plain. And I thought that was really interesting because it's like they're kind of even taking away like any bit of like lack of immersion, right? Like you're immersed in their world.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So if you're immersed in their world and then he comes out with like a pink Strat, you're like, oh, that's a pink Strat. Like I'm kind of taken out of it a little bit. But they come out with these weird, just white guitars that perfectly match whatever they're wearing, or black guitars or whatever. And it doesn't take you out of it because you're just like, oh, that's a guitar. But I'm not really drawn to like any specifics about it.
That's cool. That's an interesting like layer that they've added in to the anonymous look. You know what we haven't discussed?
Here I see him playing. It's a Jackson in this one. It's a fan fret 8-string black Jackson. So it's just kind of like a standard metal guitar, but like their bass, it's just a black bass, a black guitar. Like they all just totally match. It's almost like the instruments just kind of disappear into what's going on stage, and they're not at all trying to draw any attention to what they're actually like playing with. Here's a Charvel bass.
Yeah, they want
so yeah. I mean, they're just on the music. Standard brands, but they're not taking you out of it. It's either black or white. I can't find. Here's a video of him playing like a wooden one, like a natural colored one. But they're all, nothing about the instruments is like pulling you out of it.
That's cool. When I went my most recent show, I guess, apart from you guys, was the Eras tour for Taylor Swift, and like every song.
Wow.
I'm thinking about Paramore before
Taylor Swift, biggest concert in the world to us.
Yeah, Paramore opened for her, and the guitar player that they had, one of the hired ones, every single song he changed guitars, and the guitar was just so flamboyantly colorful or uniquely designed. Like, you know, it just instantly brings your attention to the guitar. So I kind of like, I don't know. It's almost like the guitar itself is distracting a little bit. Not that his playing was bad. His playing was good. Hired musicians have to be some of the best out there, or you don't get work.
Yeah.
So it's just interesting to me that like the guitar literally drew my attention so much, like to that, but not necessarily the playing, just how cool the guitar looked. So it's really awesome that it's like, all right, I have this playing guitar. You have to listen to the music. They just do everything they do is just forcing you to like really, like you said, immerse yourself in their world. And speaking of their world, we should actually discuss just Sleep Token, like the title. So part of their lore is that apparently Vessel 1, I'll say, had a dream where the deity Sleep visited him and promised him glory and magnificence if he followed him. And so Sleep is an old deity.
Damn, that worked out.
Right? Sleep is an old deity that blessed people with the ability to dream and cursed them with the ability to have nightmares, basically. And he says that sleep still exists today. And he went on to a whole spiel of how England or the UK is just so old and has so much old lore and history built into it. And so I guess this is, so I guess sleep is just part of that old lore. And so Sleep Token, you know, is like a token towards sleep. You know, they're paying their dues essentially and speaking his word, as they said, or projecting his message. So like the music almost comes off religiously at times, but it's not like any specific religion. It's just paying homage to the deity of sleep.
So if you follow them on their socials and stuff, I don't know who's running them, but they have their branding and all that stuff down. They have a certain way they talk, like the way they post stuff is very, you've never heard anything like it. They call shows worship. Like tomorrow, Athens, Georgia will gather and worship, and then worship's always capitalized. They, anytime they post pictures of a show, they say moments captured in time. It's the same caption every time. Moments captured in time in Charlotte. Moments captured in time in New York. Moments captured in time. So like during their tour, every day it was like moments captured in time in Asheville. Tomorrow, Tampa will gather and worship. It was like that post like every day with different stuff. They also like, they use like bigger words. I need to just find this real quick because they say stuff very uniquely, and it's actually kind of funny, but also kind of cool. Let me pull it up. I was also going to say something else about it. Now I can't remember what I was going to say. All right, Sleep Token. Let's see.
Are you just pulling up their X?
Tickets for the European and United Kingdom rituals become more scarce by the day. Now is the time to act. Saying, go buy tickets.
Yeah, go buy tickets.
Yeah, but the thing they do with their merch, they say obtain, which I always think is funny. Like the link, like if you go to their story, it's just a picture of all their shirts and stuff, and it just says obtain, and you can click the link to obtain the merch.
That's so awesome.
And they'll be like, act with haste to avoid disappointment, or stock is low, something like that, crazy stuff. Oh, sorry, it's sacred moments in time captured in Philadelphia. Tonight, New York City shall gather and worship.
Are they still touring right now in America?
I think it's got to be over now. I think they also do something interesting that I think is cool. After the tour, they wipe their socials, so there's nothing.
Oh,
no pictures, no videos, no posts, nothing. So, and they've done it several times because when you scroll back to the bottom of their social, their whole social media starts with like what they're doing right now. Everything before it is gone.
I just looked it up real quick. They are back over in Germany as their next couple. So they're over back in Europe right now.
Yeah, here's the post I was trying to say that I finally found. At the hour of 6 p.m. on the 10th of July, the United Kingdom Merchandise Emporium shall be replenished with an assortment of new garments. Quantities will be limited. Act with haste to avoid disappointment.
They really enjoy old English in a way.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love
dude,
it. They're just
that's
like
so cool.
They've created their thing and they are their thing, Love it or hate it. Oh, here's what I was going to say. Do you think, and I'll give you a sliding scale here. Tell me where you think Vessel is on this sliding scale of being an anonymous masked musician that believes in crazy stuff. Is he Kiss, who only decided to do it, as kind of almost like a gimmick? And, of course, we don't believe I'm the star child or the demon. This is just our branding we've created. We're making money. It's awesome. All the way to the other side, Buckethead, who is the same thing, but fully believes it and is essentially insane.
Yeah.
Where do you think Vessel is on that scale? Is he the guy that's like, yeah, of course sleep isn't real. It's just a cool like story I've created and we're living it and it's awesome. Or is he like freaking out text backstage with like his prayers and rants? And they're like, dude, this guy's fucking weird.
If I had to, let's say Kiss is 1 and Buckethead is 10, I'd say probably like a 4 if I had to guess.
Yeah. So he's self-aware. He's not insane.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
But he knows he can come off insane and people will kind of follow it.
Yeah. I was going to say, so I think he definitely plays the character well enough that he's going to get you believing that he possibly could be a Buckethead level. But I think if you were to just talk to him, outside of his makeup
like
and costume, and you didn't know who he was, and you were just having a discussion, exactly. I highly doubt he's going to bring up like, I actually, you
think he's just talking about sleep? Like how Liverpool did,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's probably just talking about like normal stuff. So I'd say he's definitely England's more towards the normal side of things, if I had to guess. Yeah. But still, like that world he's created is so cool.
The other thing I was going to say is, it's escaping me as I say this sentence. Shit. That feeling where you feel it slipping away and you just keep finishing your sentence even though it's going.
Yeah.
Come back to me. Call on someone else.
It might come back to you. We got
I know it'll come back to me mid whatever sentence you're about to say.
Whatever I'm about to say. I was going to talk about just their first couple of singles that came out before their first album, the ones that released.
Oh, it is worth saying. This is not what I was going to say, but it is worth saying. We said they came out in 2016. Their first album came out in 2019. So they like did some singles and some playing around. Like you can find pictures of them playing early on 2016, 17, 18. They're playing like 100 seat rooms that I've played, like tiny little rooms. Mm-hmm. So it's not, they didn't really start catching on until, really after COVID, I think. Like they had the album before then, but it took a minute for people to kind of follow. That being said, it still was very fast.
Yeah, so in 2016, they released their first EP called One, and it had 3 songs on it: Thread the Needle, Fields of Elation, and When the Bow Breaks. And they then released an EP the next year called Two, if you could have guessed, which had Calcutta, Nazareth, and Jericho on it. And I don't know about you. I actually, so I listened to those first before having listened to anything else of theirs. And I actually was not the biggest fan of the EPs because they really didn't do any of the hard stuff in any of those 6 songs. There was nothing hard, nothing exciting with the drums. It was very much, it feels like Two had like no influence on those EPs. I feel like it was all One.
Maybe he wasn't in it yet.
Yeah, I should have paid attention to the writing on who wrote those songs, but it definitely doesn't feel like Two gets his expression until the first album. Go for it.
So a lot of people have obviously been trying to unmask them and figure out who they are. It seems like, which that is annoying. I'm with you. It seems like some people have found out who Vessel is, and I'm not going to say his name because I don't want to. That's not my place to. If he wants to reveal his identity, he can. But I will say I watched a little bit of the video that they said of the guy they thought it was. Mm-hmm. And he's talking and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, maybe. I don't know. Like, could be him. And then he sits down at the piano and he starts playing. I'm like, yeah, that sounds like something Sleep Token would play. And then he starts singing. And I'm like, that's his voice. Like, holy shit. That might be him. Guy sounds exactly like him if it's not him. And, but yeah, I guess you can go look at that if you want. I would encourage you probably not to. I like to just enjoy what they give us, not try to flip over all the stuff they don't want to give us.
Yeah, I'm definitely on the side.
I'm definitely not going to say his name.
Yeah, I lean towards the side of just keeping them anonymous. If that's their purpose, like, don't go and try and unmask them. And if you do figure out who it is, keep that shit to yourself. All right. It's not your place to expose them when they obviously don't want people to know who they are. They
have a thing going, and you're just going to walk in and be like, "Oh, it's my buddy Tom." Like, just fucking ruin everything. Like,
it's me at any kind of magician show. I've done so much research on like every kind of like. It's very rare that a magic trick stumps me. I usually know how it's done. And so I'm just that guy that sits there and you can just lean over and I'll be like, yeah, so this, that, and that happened. That's why that happened. I'll just ruin the whole magic show for you. But nobody wants that. So I just keep it to myself and I try to look like amazed. I've had people come up and do magic to me and I know exactly how to do the trick, but I still play along, It's just better. It's just better for everybody, literally better for everyone involved. So, but that sucks that they were able to kind of maybe potentially figure out who.
I guess it's not proven, but it definitely seemed like that's probably him.
I gotcha. Did that video come across accidentally for you, or?
I think Amy showed me.
Oh, okay.
She was looking.
I'm gonna have to scold her next time I see her.
I know, right?
Shame.
I don't think
on
she was
you.
Searching, so it might have just come across for her. But
I was gonna say, I guess if you're a fan, then somebody probably just like sent it out to all the goons.
Here's one of the pictures I was saying. If you go on, so from their wiki, if you go down and click their, view the full discography, the picture that pops up on Wikipedia for their full discography, the caption is Sleep Token performing live in 2022. So only a year before they blew up. If you look at that venue, that's a small venue. That's not a big venue. That's like Amos's size, like where we play.
Yeah, true.
And you can see they have a very scaled down production. Very like they have some risers and stuff, but very I just love watching bands kind of come up. The other thing I would say is when we talk about a band like this, we have two things to talk about. We have the lore and the kind of in the world stuff to talk about, and then zoom out and then the real world stuff, you know, like who's in the band, how are they touring, who's, you know, they're from Britain, you know, they recorded here, like all the real stuff, you know, stuff that removes you from the immersion.
Now you got me reading on the artistry and identity style. And of course, the group gets, you know, likened to other bands like Ghost, Slipknot, you know, those kind of bands that, like you were saying, are on, Gwar. But what's cool is behind it says Corey Taylor praises the band and all of their stuff. And the drummer, too, one of his inspirations is Joey Jordison. So I'm sure he was pretty happy to hear that. Secretly, I don't think they show any emotion when they're in character. So, but speaking of that, there are, like I said, there's almost nothing about the band. They've done 2 interviews ever. There was a initial interview with Vessel One that was not even recorded or anything. It's just in writing, and it's just him describing the name of the band and the lore, nothing else. And then Drumeo got to do about an hour-long interview with the drummer, obviously, and he basically plays a song, and then they ask him a question, and he, you know, answers, and then plays a song, and just through that, I took a little notes of things I liked specifically. He grew up playing metal, but is a huge fan of R&B and pop, and tries to incorporate it into his drumming, and you can really hear that inspiration in some of the grooves and some of the songs, like you were saying, that viral part of like an R&B sounding. That's straight just his kind of inspiration. And also, Dallas and I know this very much, but I'm not sure how much the rest of the world knows. R&B drummers are insane. Super underrated because most of the time in the R&B genre, the voice and the lyrics are the forefront. Drummers in R&B are just disgustingly good. It's not even fair. So definitely... And with a lot of the inspirations he mentions, you can tell that he really was gravitated towards the best of the best when it comes to the drummers.
Yeah, a lot of those guys will go out and they'll hire, you know, Chris Coleman, Aaron Spears, who's passed now, you know, Tony Royster Jr., all these guys, they go out and like, they're just the best drummers in the world, but they get hired by, you know, Jay-Z and whoever else. And they go out and, Aaron Spears, Chris Coleman, one of them played for Prince, I think, for a while. So like that kind of stuff. So like, you know, they're not necessarily going ham on stage. A lot of times they have a moment or two to kind of show you what they got, but it's more about just, I need to hire a drummer that is never going to fumble. Like he's just every song's going to feel right. Every song's going to be dead on. And I can just trust that anchor is going to be there.
Yeah. So he also took a lot of inspiration from UK dance music. And I was telling you this, I bet he's a Daft Punk fan secretly. Maybe not secretly, but you know, like I bet he likes Daft Punk. So that dance music, it's so interesting that he's like almost like a metal drummer. I don't know. We were describing this band as the 1975, but like metal and a little and
definitely draw some parallels. Yeah.
Draw some parallels, at least with our favorite part of 1975 as the drummer, I believe. I don't know about you, but that's definitely my favorite part.
And I like the drum parts, and I like a lot of the songs, like the crafting of the song.
The instrumental
the chords, the melody, everything, kind of how it comes together. And they have a lot of really good guitar tones. Two has become, you know, he's kind of shot up to being one of, if not my favorite drummer. It's Chad Smith, so it always probably will be, and then, you know, this guy.
Yeah, dude, I'm kind of right there with you. Yeah, Chad Smith's my favorite, but this guy, after watching that Drumeo, I was just taken aback. So
you've seen a ton. This morning, I opened up Instagram, and the first thing that popped up was to himself. He posted a video. He posts these sometimes where there's like a camera like over his shoulder. I guess at most shows, and it was him. It was them at Red Rocks. And it was him playing the Summoning. And it was just, he posted a video of that. It was like the first half. The Summoning has my favorite Sleep Token drum fill ever, which is that one he plays when they go back from the chorus back into the heavy part. So take me, whatever that part is. My voice is gone. But and then it goes back into that that part's that drum fill, dude.
Oh yeah, I know that part. Oh,
where he throws two hi-hats in the middle of it. That's the R&B, the gospel.
That's what
he's doing
saying.
like but he throws two hi-hat. Like,
yeah, dude, his fills are
so
just
cool.
Absolutely so unique to the genre he plays in. And you described it perfectly when we were talking before your guys' show the other night that he's perfected like doing too much without sounding like he's doing too much. If as weird as that sentence is, it's
because if you watch him play, go watch the Drumeo video, watch some live stuff. He posts a lot of stuff himself, which is the best way to view it. I think, he posted it himself.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's right behind him. So you can clearly see everything he's doing, his feet, everything. You can't count try to go 4 bars where he just plays something just straight without adding something. And you can't do it.
Doesn't happen.
You can't do it. You can barely go 2 bars before he's doing something different. Some little, ride bell in the middle of a regular, even if it's just like a boom, ga, the second beat, it's like going, ga, ding, ga, ga. You're like, okay, all right.
Yep. It's just so unique but it's so tasteful at the same time. It
never feels like too much, at least to me. It always fits the song really well.
I agree with you. It's just uses so many like different textures and phrases within his grooves, and he talks about that. As far as I know, he said he likes to use a bunch of Eric Moore licks, which then you and
I don't know that I'd heard of him.
Me neither. And then I watched that video and I was like, oh, he is crazy though. So good. It reminded me a lot of Carter Beauford, and just with like his hi-hat work, just so good. Like something about a certain level of funk in silence and skipping, beats can have just as much of effect as playing a lot, if that makes sense. It's hard to explain that. Speaking of the inspirations we were talking about earlier, he listed out all the names that he listed out, and you even said a couple. So Joey Jordison, he said growing up, that was a big inspiration. Matt from Mudvayne, which I wasn't familiar with. Derek Roddy, and he mentioned Derek Roddy as far as speed playing, and I wasn't familiar with him either. I'm gonna have to look him up, but
so Derek Roddy was in some fun stuff about Derek Roddy. He was one of the guys that auditioned to replace Mike Portnoy.
Oh, okay.
He's from South Carolina.
Oh,
which is cool. He's from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. I just looked it up. I knew he was from here. I just didn't know exactly where. He was in the band Nile. And Nile is this like extreme death metal band. They recorded at a studio in Lexington, South Carolina, where I've recorded at with one of my bands in the past.
Hey, that's where I live currently.
Yeah, right there, right by you. They recorded the album right down the street from you. That's where we recorded one of my Marry Me Joanna EPs.
Oh, nice.
Right there. I can't remember the name of the studio now. Also, here's a fun little thing on Derek Roddy's page. His ability to record entire drum tracks in 1 or 2 takes earned him the nickname One Take.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I promise you, if you listen to the stuff he's playing, it's not something you or I could do in 1 take. It's not something you or I could do, period.
Yeah, I was about to say.
I mean, just the fastest blast beats, the fastest feet, and it's just 1 take. And to the point that the producer's like, I think we got it.
That's crazy, because that means
guys,
you were in time.
Drums might not take a week. Drums might take an afternoon.
That's crazy, because that means he was relatively in time the whole time.
It means he was
perfectly,
really well in time. Yeah, for sure.
And then, of course, I said Eric Moore. He pulls licks from that's one of his. Tony Royster Jr. and then Thomas Pridgeon, all drummers that he mentions as influences. So, and then, of course, I think a lot of people within the music space, or specifically within playing instruments, usually know who Tony Royster Jr. is. Just drumming prodigy.
Yeah, from that viral video when he was a kid. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. I thought this was interesting. He said he likes to use paradiddles before he does busier playing to prepare the listener's ears for like a busier section of music. This being 2, not Tony Royster, but and then I went and listened, and I was like, he definitely throws in some unique sounding paradiddles. It's hard to pick up because literally like each part of the paradiddle will be a different part of the kit. So you're like, huh. But just it's so cool how he can implement just some of the basic things you learn when you're just starting to play drums, but in some of the most unique, using it in very unique ways. And then one last thing, he said he really likes listening to the tracks they've already recorded. So like going back when they're preparing for a tour and listening to the studio version. And he said he can look at their songs through a different lens and come up with more interesting parts for the live songs. So
yeah,
do you ever do
that?
that? I was going to say, do you ever listen back and you're like, oh, I would change this about my solo?
Usually you record it pretty early on into its life, right? The song is birthed and then it's recorded almost immediately. Mm-hmm. After you sit with it for a bit, especially if you play it live a bunch, you can kind of be like, oh, I should have done this. Now I see it with such a clear lens. Like, I've lived with this song for so long, like this makes more sense here. Or hell, it would have been cool if I did this. Or like, when you're listening to the mixes, you're like, oh, I wish I did blah, blah, blah. Well, you still can do it live now.
Do it live. Yep. I like Train's live songs. They do a lot of change up in their live stuff that I like.
Yeah. With his melodies and stuff, he sings different and stuff. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. They have a lot of theirs is worth going to live. But we got a little off track when I was talking about the EPs. After the 2 EPs in 2018, they actually released a cover, and this was one of the earlier songs I had listened to of You Told Me About It. They did Outkast's Hey Ya, and they do it in a slow piano kind of way. And like you were saying, it really brings to light the lyrics. And we did Outkast, if you guys remember.
Because Andre 3000 had been quoted as saying, it doesn't matter what I say, y'all just want to dance. Mm-hmm. And that really makes sense with Hey Ya, because Hey Ya's a pretty sad song about breaking up, right?
It's about like breakups, or
Divorce,
not even that. It was like being in a relationship with a person because you don't want to be alone, and not because you actually love them.
Yeah. So a sad source material, but the song is so like upbeat and happy. Like you have to dance and smile when you're hearing it. And it's, there's tons of examples of that. One of the famous ones is Pumped Up Kicks.
True.
By Foster the People. There's tons of examples of that dichotomy of crazy lyrics, negative lyrics, positive sound, or vice versa. And, but this song, their cover of it really strips it down to like, I think he captures the essence of what the song's saying, and then pulls that sound out of it instead of, injecting it with all the dancey stuff, which is also cool. I'm sure a lot of people will absolutely hate this cover, to be fair, but.
Oh yeah, true. I don't think Andre hated it, because Andre is like regarded as one of the earlier really good lyricists within the hip hop scene, and a lot of rappers nowadays, look back to him as being, one of the greatest coming up. So like, you really get to this really takes away the music and just focuses on the lyrics with their cover. And it's a beautiful, beautiful cover. Just singing and piano. And I definitely recommend anybody checks it out. But that caught them a little bit of, I'd say that gave them a little bit of audience before their first album dropped in 2019. And that was Sundowning. And this was the first album. I liked it. It very much is like every other song of like being hard and then soft. And they do a lot of piano and melody stuff in some of their songs. And then the next song, it'll be like some screaming and hardcore, like drums and heavy sounds. And there's a lot of variation there. And upon listening to this album the second time, I liked it a lot more than the first time I had listened to it. But also I listened through the first album, second album, third album, then went back first album again. And I enjoyed it so much more the second time. So it definitely is a band that has grown on me the more and more I listen to them. And I'd say some of my favorites from that one, I really liked Dark Signs. Higher has really good drumming on it. I like Give because it's literally does just sound like almost kind of like a pop song that would come on the radio in a way. I was telling you, I like the intro of Gods, just comes out just heavy and screaming right off the rip. Great workout song. I like the chorus for Sugar. They have a lot of parts and pieces of the songs that I really enjoy.
Bloodsport is Amy's favorite.
That's her favorite? Nice.
Yep.
And then they did,
I can't remember the lyric. Is it I make or you make lovin'? I make loving you a blood sport.
Mm.
That's the chorus that he just refrains over and over again.
Yeah, and like I was telling you, they later released a deluxe version of this album that came with 4 additional songs that I haven't heard, and I need to. I kind of looked up one of them just because I was curious, but they did a different variation of Bloodsport actually on the a bonus track. Then they did a song called Shelter, and then they did 2 covers, When the Party's Over by Billie Eilish and I Want to Dance with Somebody, Whitney Houston. And that one reminds me so much of Hey Ya, that like when you slow it down, put emphasis on the lyrics and just put some piano over it and take away the dance appeal, you really dive into like the verses aren't nearly as happy sounding. Yeah, it's really just a song about like just being very lonely, just wanting somebody. So it's so crazy the way that they do these arrangements on their covers. I'm so excited for future covers if they do them. I feel like they haven't done any in a while because their sound is so good. But that was their debut is definitely worth a listen. That came out November 21st, 2019. So, and that was. Yeah, and that one definitely has 2 or Vessel 1 and Vessel 2 being the predominant songwriters. And as you were telling me, you think that 3 and 4 are just hired musicians because they're definitely
not a part of the recording process. Yeah, that much is certain.
Yeah, the recording process just has Vessel 1 and 2 listed exclusively
for all the albums, and a lot of times a producer. So producers in there. On this first one, he's playing the bass, so there's that. And then probably doing, some mixing and stuff like that. I'm not really clear on, it's kind of murky on what's actually being done. But yeah, live, if I were them, and you're touring the US, I'd hire 2 US guys because you don't have to pay visas and go through all that. If I'm going to Germany, I'd hire 2 German guys, just wherever you're going, or maybe 2 Europe guys to do Europe. You have guys in the UK, just that would make the most sense to me from a business perspective. I don't know if that's what they're doing, but it seems to me that's what they're doing because I heard from a friend who sold a bass. He used to work at a guitar store. He sold a bass to a guy who, after some research, he thinks is the bassist for Sleep Token. And I asked him, I was like, was he British? He said, no, he was American. So I was like, okay. So that's what got me thinking. If it is the guy that's touring with Sleep Token, they almost certainly have a few of them because there's absolutely no reason they would have a bass player from America that was like touring with them in UK and stuff. It makes no sense.
Yeah, so, for sure.
So if he was British, then that would have told me that they were truly a band. The same guys traveling around. Other than that, it's probably just some hired guns, if I had to guess. They have their own social media accounts for 3 and 4 and stuff, but like honestly, that could
probably
be
run by Vessel 1
company or something. Yeah,
or even just any kind of media team.
That way, they make sure their branding's on point. They post pictures they want to post. Blah 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 blah.
What was your?
That'll keep the cards pretty close to the chest.
What are your favorites from the first album?
The Offering's definitely my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
I like Gods a lot. The Offering's the one we listened to right before we jumped on here.
Yeah, that one's good.
Just one of maybe my favorite breakdown ever ends that song. And it's just so good. One thing they do, they tune their guitars so low. They're almost an octave down from a normal guitar. Most bands, even heavy bands, might be like a 4th or a 5th down. They are 12 steps down. So that's a lot, or 12 half steps down.
So then it looks like they're like
Gods is good. I mean, I like
is good.
I like all the same ones you were saying, plus the Offering. Will be my number one favorite. Yeah. So let's move on to number 2.
Number 2, yeah, it looks like they're going with an every other year album release, which a lot of people do. So their second album, This Place Will Become Your Tomb, released September 24th, 2021. And this was, as I was telling you, this is my least favorite of the 3 albums, but that doesn't mean it's bad. I just I didn't enjoy some of the like I was saying previously, they have some songs where the drums aren't as prevalent, and I felt like in this album there was a lot more of that and just more focus on his vocals. And I was telling you, like, he's a good singer and everything. Sometimes with the British accent coming out, or the English accent coming a little bit through the singing, is not exactly my favorite all the time, but he's still a really good singer. And my favorite was Hypnosis from this album, which I think is one of the singles, or like one of the bigger ones from this, as well as I really liked the early, like the piano and stuff on Atlantic. That one's really...
Atlantic is great. That's a big one for fans too, I think. And then Alkaline's good. The other ones I'm actually not as familiar with. The inclusivity of, or the inclusiveness, what's the word I'm looking for? Including the coordinates is wild. And I didn't realize this because when you pull it up on Apple Music, you just see 12 songs. Mm-hmm. That's fine. Wikipedia has it broken down into 4 sets of 3, which tells you that the coordinates are designed to tell you something there, and that each set of 3 has a different like phase of something. I don't know. The first one's an empty circle. The second one's a circle with the bottom half filled in, and then the top half filled in, and then the right side filled in. So it's not quite a moon phase, but it kind of looks like that's what they're trying to do. For. You know,
like we said, there's so much.
Well, we love their symbols.
Yeah, there's so much hidden stuff to decipher within this band. And it definitely
it's kind of fun. They give you something more than just songs. You know, it's kind of cool.
Yeah, they give you some homework.
Yeah,
stuff to figure out.
And what's great is it's still accessible. Like you could like the song because it's a cool song. Period.
Yep. Walk
away, never even know that they wear masks, never know anything. Or you can dig all the way in and find the coordinates to every you know what I mean? Like they've made it accessible at every stage for whatever type of fan you want to be. This band gives it to you.
That's a good way to put that.
Where someone like, you know, I'll use Guns N' Roses because I always do as an example. Like you can like the songs and then you can dig in and like the guys and like the top hat, and then you can dig in a little further, and then that's kind of it. There's no secret meanings. There's no, like if you're that person that loves a scavenger hunt, like that's not the band for you. There's nothing there for you. But this has it.
Yep. Plenty of layers.
Dig in really as deep as you want.
Many layers.
And sorry, everybody, I'm still getting over being sick.
Yeah.
That's why when I go to my falsetto, it goes...
It just cuts out. Yeah.
There's nothing there. Okay, let's move on to the flagship.
Yeah.
The calling card. This is the one that really broke them. And I think for good reason. I think it's clearly the best album. I think most people would agree.
Yeah, I would agree.
It's also the longest album. It's also the first one they did with a different producer at a different studio. And looking at the personnel, so we may have touched on this already, but when they go in the studio, it's just Vessel and Two, and Two does the drums, and Vessel does literally everything else. Mm-hmm. So every bit when you're listening to their albums and you hear bass, guitar, piano, whatever, that's all him. And then in this one they have, you know, someone who engineered it and mixed it and someone who mastered it. So it's 4 people on personnel. That is absurd for an album that is this good.
Right.
Usually album, like if you go look at like Taylor Swift, for example, if you look at the personnel on her albums, I mean, there's 70 people involved because she might have different drummers on different tracks and different sets of different, you know, they call for different things. This one is like very clearly one person's vision, and a few people come in to support that vision, and done. You know?
Yeah. Recording that must have been just so refreshingly nice for the producer. I assume. I don't truly know how it is to work with Vessel One or how much of a control freak he is, but it seems like it's based on the result. It
seems like he's more of an artist than a control freak, but yeah, I don't know.
That's what I
definitely could be.
But we forgot to say the title, Take Me Back to Eden. That's the name of this album.
Yes,
and that came out May 19th, 2023. So this, like we said, it's hard to pick I mean, I've got a favorite, and their favorite song of mine is on this album, but this whole album, start to finish, is immaculate.
It's worth a full start to finish. Yeah. Listen.
Yes, for sure. It opens up with Chokehold, which I know is one of your favorites.
It's one of my favorites.
Yep. And then it goes into The Summoning, which is my favorite song of theirs, period. I like Vor is good. Take Me Back to Eden and ending with Euclid. Is that how you pronounce that?
Euclid. Yeah, that's the one you started learning on piano.
Euclid. Yep. Those, and Take Me Back to Eden's an 8-minute song, and it has like 4 or 5 changes in it that just sound like it sounds like
Ascensionism 7 and the Summoning's over 6.
Yeah, it sounds like 4 different songs all in one, which I like that kind of style.
This album is how I discovered this band, so it's the one I know the best, and it's because it had just come out right around the time Amy and we'd been dating for a month or 2. She sent it to me, and she was back home in the UK, and I was at home, and I went down to mow my mom's yard to be a good son, and I was like, all right, I need something to put on, so I'm just gonna, I just got sent this album. I'll put it on. I'll listen to it while I'm mowing. And Chokehold's the first song, and just immediately I was like, oh my God, this is different. This is cool. And then I just ran it, on a loop while I was mowing the yard. I probably listened to it 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
And then funny enough, later I was in the gym and I had put this entire album, every single song on my gym playlist, which is like 500 songs long. So when I go in the gym, I just hit shuffle and whatever happens, happens. And the song, Are You Really Okay? Pops up on my gym playlist. And it's like really, really slow and soft, right? So you would expect me to kind of skip it or delete it or something. But I'm drawn in by the chord progression because it uses one of my favorite chord progressions. And so I'm listening and I'm just sitting there lifting, doing my thing. And it's a really quiet song and it just builds and builds and builds. Wouldn't you know, I just listened to the entire song in the gym. Just like this song has just fully captured me and brought me in. And that is actually one of my favorite songs. Are You Really Okay?
Nice. That's awesome. This album actually made the U.S. Billboard 200 at number 16, which I thought was quite impressive.
Oh, wow.
That's what I'm saying. Like, that's really high for this type of.
Are you sure it's not Billboard like rock or something?
Nope, it's the Billboard 200, the one, and they got number 16 with this album.
Incredible.
Which is impressive because, of course, their previous 2 barely charted on anything. And then this one came out, and you were telling me it's like number 1 metal album, number 1. I think it's like number 2 or something for rock albums or hard rock.
They list here, a bunch of different press publications that come out with, 5 best albums of 23, 50 best albums of 23, top 20 albums of 23, 30 best albums of 20, different ones. It's number 1 on 4 of them. And
deservedly
1, 2, 3, 4 more, it's top 5. And then one of them, it's number 21, and one of them, it's not on, I guess. But like, it just absolutely, everyone agreed.
This is definitely one. If you're going to dive into Sleep Token, if you're interested in what we're talking about today, this is the album probably to start with. This is going to really draw you in. Gosh, I'm going to listen to it again.
Because actually, I'd say you're probably not the biggest fan of metal, right? Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that.
And Sleep Token is technically a metal band, but they offer something different. It's hard to explain. Like, honestly, he screams maybe 5 to 10% of the time.
Yeah.
It's almost all singing, and he's a phenomenal vocalist. So, and those vocals are actually what most people, love about Sleep Token. That's what the first thing when I heard people talk about it, and they're like, dude, their singer's insane. And I saw him live, and I can confirm he sounds exactly like that. He is a great singer, really good performer too. He wears these like ballet shoes so he can like prance around. And his style of like being a frontman is very odd but very cool. So like the first song they came out and played, I can't remember the song, but it was on the slower side, piano driven, and the lights are just beautiful. I can send you a picture of it. They're just stunning. And everyone's just like, it's kind of like a whoa moment. And then the second song they go into, which again, I couldn't tell you because I didn't know the band that well at the time, hits really hard, really fast. It was something like Gods. And he just starts prancing around the stage. Like, the only way I could describe it is he was like a predator, like an animal. Like, he just like stalks the stage, like really aggressively, and like jumps in these weird ways, like a ballerina almost. And like, he's just got this really like magnetic thing. You just like can't look away from him, but he's not at all like a traditional frontman, like a rock star, like you'd think, where he comes out, points at the crowd and like, handles the mic stand, none of that stuff. Like, he's so weird, so different, but it's so cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's weird. I'm a weirdo, and I usually put vocals on the back burner for my first listens to songs. But I guess that makes sense. I played drums, so of course the drumming and the instrumental is what I'm always gonna be attracted to first. And then going back, like I said, my first listens through, I had some complaints on the voice. Second listen through, I was like, all right, I don't have those same complaints. He's just a really good singer, and it's really good. So even this grew on me. And like you said, I'm not the biggest metal fan. I do listen to metal. That is not like, I just, it's very, I'm very particular with it.
You're not the biggest fan of like screaming.
Yeah, I like some screaming, just not all of it. And I can't do it for long sustained periods of time, which is great about this band for people that want an intro into metal, because there is a lot of just melodic singing and just good vocals.
It's kind of like Linkin Park.
Yeah,
Linkin Park got a lot of people into metal. They got me into metal. Like he screams some, but he sings a lot, you know?
Mm-hmm. But that catches us up. Hopefully I know they're on tour right now, but
so I'm assuming they finished the US and they're back in Europe.
Yep, they're back in Europe. They're in Germany. They're gonna hit Austria, a couple places, and then they're gonna end up ending in London again. I believe their last show will be back in London, and I assume I can't. I mean, I'm probably wrong, but based on what I've seen so far, I'd assume as soon as they're back in London, it's probably studio time. If they're going to do a fourth album, probably 2025, if they're keeping the same schedule that they've kept up with.
This is exciting. I saw in February 2024, they got signed to RCA Records. So it'll be their first major label release. So honestly, dude, at this point of recording, like, they've done all the legwork themselves with or help with small labels and stuff. Mm-hmm. With a big label marketing budget behind them, I mean, I would not be surprised to see them hit like Slipknot levels in the next like 5 years, where they're playing like stadiums.
I definitely could see that projected for them. We're projecting that. So, that's our.
So that's
we're definitely
insane.
Guessing.
It's cool to watch it in real time now that I know the business side of things, and I can kind of key into it a little more, as opposed to just being like, whoa, that band's getting bigger. Like, now I'm actually like watching it happen and like going back and being like, okay, well, they did all this by themselves, then they did this, you know?
Yeah, we'll have to keep updates whenever they do release another album. We'll have to talk about it.
Yeah,
when
we'll
it
have to do
out.
some, actually we're building up quite the list of artists here we've done. We'll have to do some touch-ups or some check-ins on some of our in-between episodes. All right, let's get to our ratings.
Yeah, for sure.
So as you guys know, we rate out of 6 categories. We rate each category out of 5, and then we total it and average it to get our total rating for them. Those categories are creativity, and that is creativity within the space, so within the metal space. So we're comparing them to other metal bands. Evolution, comparing them to themselves, plus time. Replayability, cultural impact, emotional connection, and nostalgia factor. So why don't you start us off with creativity?
I'm actually going to open up with a strong 5 out of 5 on creativity. And this just goes from their look. Yeah, their look, the drum parts, the arrangement, everything they do is just so unique, so like literally they're just the definition of like, that's a creative ass band. And anything you want to add to that with your 5 out of 5?
No, I think creativity in the space, I think 5 out of 5 is easy and well-deserved. Evolution.
This one's fun too. It's going to be another high score from me. Not a 5, but I am going to go with a 4 because of, like I said,
the same, yeah.
The evolution from their first album to the third it's still their same sound and everything. It just sounds like they hit their stride on the third one. Like they'd figured out everything, and it's so good. I'm hoping that this is not the climax, that we're still on the rise, as we talked about. And like you said, with them signing to their biggest label yet, that has the funds and the power to really put them out there. I'm really expecting big things from this next album, if there is one. You never know. I
did a 4 for Evolution as well. And just so people don't think I'm copying you, and we may have the same scores here again. Replayability, I'm going to go 5 out of 5 on replayability because I never get tired of listening to their songs. And not only that, there's so much depth there we were talking about that you can dig into and peel back layers. And, I learned this little tidbit. Let me go back and listen to it again. that's all replayability for me. And a lot of bands don't have that, but I think this band definitely does. So 5 out of 5 there.
This one's a little harder for me. I'll go back and listen to. I added a couple songs to a workout playlist as well. But I'm probably going to be a 3 out of 5 just because it's, like you said, it's not my favorite genre. And so like I can listen to them, but I was telling you when I was listening to the discography, I was taking breaks to listen to like some really dance music and like upbeat stuff because sometimes their songs can get a little emotionally sad or, you know, that kind of feeling. So I'm a 3 out of 5 on replayability.
Bring it down.
Yeah.
Cultural impact. I think they're not big enough to have an insane cultural impact. I'm going to put them at a 3 because they have definitely had some underground impact. I wore a Sleep Token shirt to one of our shows, and we're a country band, and we played a country honky tonk bar, and there was, you know, hundreds and hundreds of people there. And when I got off stage, 7 different people came up and were like, dude, Sleep Token, I don't even like country. I like you guys now because of that. So I was like, there's definitely some impact there, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
So we went into Hot Topic. We were in the mall. We went into Hot Topic to get a Sleep Token shirt.
They have Sleep Token stuff at Hot Topic?
Not only that, we went up to ask the lady. I was like, hey, do you have this one in my size? I couldn't find it. She was like, dude, we can't keep any of the Sleep Token stuff in stock.
That's awesome. I mean, their merch looks so sick. Like the artwork and things that they have, their symbols.
It's pretty genius. It's pretty genius to put so much emphasis on artwork and branding into your music because, I mean, that's just merch. Like, that's where you're going to make all your money, you know?
Yep. I'm going to copy you at a 3 out of 5. I was right there, like in the middle.
Emotional connection.
Emotional connection. This is so bad. I gotta reanalyze the way I listen to music because I give low emotional connections for everything because I usually just listen for the music. I do too. I just listen for the instruments, man. I really don't necessarily, as bad as it sounds, I necessarily don't care about what they're singing about. As long as it sounds good and it's like that. So I'm a 2.
We're both putting a 2 out of 5 there. I'm with you for the same reasons. But a lot of the stuff they sing about is about, you know, coping with depression, you know, things like that. And that's not really something I deal with. So I don't have to.
Human condition.
I appreciate it. I think he writes about it beautifully, but it's not something I'm necessarily relating to. Nostalgia factor. Now, here's interesting. It's a new band. You would think they wouldn't have that high of a nostalgia factor. I'm going to put them at a 4 out of 5 because of everything. They've come to mean to me, you know?
Yeah. They're still brand new to me. I'm within a couple of weeks of listening to this band. So I'm not going to give them a 0, but I'm going to do a 1 out of 5. However, when they do have, if a 4th album comes out and we do a revisiting, and we could probably just do one episode that revisits a couple of artists we've done. And I was saying we could then revisit our scores because then nostalgia factor might actually have a little more impact as it grows on us. And so I'm just so new into this band that it's a 1 out of 5. There's no nostalgia because this is my first time diving in, but you've at least listened to them for a little bit, been to a show, you know, it even has like, I don't think it would bump it up, but a little emotional connection because it's a band you share with your wife. Like as far as that's kind of like what the 1975 is for my wife and I. We love the 1975. It's like we refer to them as like our relationship band. Yeah, like our band. And not saying that Sleep Token is that for you, but since she introduced it to you, you know, there's that extra nostalgia of like when you think about Sleep Token, you probably think about Amy and things like that. So it just makes sense that whole amount. Sorry, I just got off track because I saw what my total came out to.
Yeah, so Ashton comes out to a clean 3.0 out of 5.
Let's go.
3 out of 5, and I come in at a 3.8 out of 5. So not bad.
Yeah, this was an exciting.
And I think a lot of the, you know, if that score sounds lower to you than you thought it might, based on how we were talking about them, I think a lot of that's due to they're a new band. They haven't, like the cultural impact and the nostalgia factor could both be, you know, easily increased, as well as, you know, evolution could go up, emotional connection could go up with time, you know, all sorts of stuff. There's a lot more to come from these guys. So,
and you and I were discussing, I really think like the score 3 out of 5 sounds like you said very like middling, but we were discussing like a bad score from us is probably like below a
Anything
2
one.
or
Yeah.
a 1 point something. That's really where you're getting into we probably don't like it, but a 2 out of 5 and higher means like it's basically a thumbs up from us.
There's some good stuff. Yeah, for sure. And 2.5's right there. You know, that's 50%. So,
Yep. So
Cool.
that's been
Any closing
Sleep
thoughts?
Token. No, I'm excited to listen to that third album for a third time. I've listened to it twice
There you
now,
go.
but just want to keep listening to it. It's a great workout track. So I'm actually probably going to cut it on when I go and work out after this. Just excited to continue listening and excited for what's to come from them, most of all.
yeah, same. And I just seeing they were signed to RCA, that's intriguing. I'm interested to see. That could go one of two ways, but I think with Vessel at the helm, he's got a clear vision. It doesn't seem, it's definitely not art by committee. You know, I don't think he's going to let too many people get their hands in the pie to kind of muddle up what he wants to do. So it'll be cool to see where that goes. I mean, I sure hope he doesn't. I hope it doesn't become like, you know, you signed to the big label and now you're putting out Sleep Token number 4 and the label's like, guys, come on, like this isn't, you know, like try this instead. It's like, dude, shut up. Like,
Yeah.
let us do our art. So we'll see.
Well, that's been Sleep Token. Just a reminder, check us out on our socials on YouTube, and we have a Patreon. That's $5 a month. And I really don't have anything else. I'm just excited to go listen to more Sleep Token, dude. So we're going to sign off
cool.
on that.
All right. Well, we'll see you guys next week.